Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theruvan Saranai. Good evening, Venerable Mahasangha, Sires and brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Today we are going to talk further on the Maggārammaṇa Tika, the object of the path triplet. Now, today we are going to deviate a little bit from the Tika because I realized it would be better to talk a little about the three paccayas, the Hetupaccaya, Arammana-paccaya, and Adhipati-paccaya, because it's important to know them in order to understand the Maggārammaṇa Tika well. Of course, today's lesson is going to be a little shorter than our usual lessons due to a few health concerns that I'm having. So let's look at the three terms of the Maggārammaṇa Tika again, the object of the path triplet. Maggārammaṇa Dhamma, states having the path as their object. Maggahetukā Dhamma, states having the path as their root cause, and Maggādhipatino Dhamma, states having the path as their predominant factor. So last week we spoke about Maggārammaṇa Dhamma, states having the path as their object. So what are the states that take the path or the Magga Chitta as their Arammana, as their sense object? So this occurs, you must remember, it occurs only to the Aryans, the Ariya Puggala. So it should be either a Sovan, Sakadagami, Anagami, or Arahant person that can take the Magga Chitta as the Arammana of the consciousness. A Putujjana person, a person who has not attained Sovan, Sakadagami, Anagami, or Arahat states, cannot take the Magga Chitta as their sense object. So when does this occur? This occurs during two instances. If they are looking at their own Magga Chitta, that is during Paṭiccasamuppāda, that is during recollection or the review process. So then what happens is they will, after they attain the Magga or Phala, the Magga and Phala, they will come out of that state and then they will do the Paṭiccasamuppāda. And when the Magga Chitta, their own Magga Chitta, is taken as the sense object, the Chitta and Cetasika Dhamma, which are one of the four Jnana Sampayutta, Kāmāvachara, Kusala Chitta, when it comes to the Sovan, Sakadagami or Anagami individual, or it will be one of the four Jnana Sampayutta Maha Kriya Chitta if it's an Arahant. But remember, it's not only those 8 Chitta, the Manodvara Vajjana Chitta is also involved here because that is the starting point of the cognitive process, the Chitta Viti of this Paccavekkhana cognitive process. Now that is if they are taking their own Magga Chitta as the Arammana. But there are individuals who can also look at the Magga Chitta of others. But it's not everyone who can do that. So who can look at the Magga Chitta of another individual? It has to be an Ariya Puggala. So Putujjana people who have not attained Sovan, Sakadagami, Anagami, or Arahant states cannot look at Magga Chittas of others. So they themselves must be a Ariya Puggala. The other factor is that they should have abhiññā. So to have abhiññā, they should master the 4 rūpāvachara jhanas and the 4 arūpāvachara jhanas to such an extent that they have super knowledges. They have this abhiññā. So an individual who is an Aryan who has abhiññā is able to look at the Magga Chittas of other individuals. Then again, you must remember that also depends on which state they are at. If it's a Sovan Ariya Puggala, he can see only the Sovan Magga Chitta of others. He can't see the higher Chittas. But when it comes to the Arahat Aryan, he is able to see all the Chittas, the Sovan, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arihat of other individuals, provided that he has attained Abhinya. He should have achieved the Ashta Samapatti, the 8 jhanas, which are the 4 Rupavachara and the 4 Arupavachara jhanas. So this is the summary table that gives the states that have the path as their object. So as we described before, so right at the corner, the third column, it gives the individual. So which individual takes this particular state, the Magga as the sense object. And the first column gives the analytical state that takes the Arammana. So a Sotapatti, a stream winner, can take the Sotapatti Magga Chitta as the sense object. It may be his own, or it may be that of someone else if he has developed Abhinya. So the first two, the Manodvara Vajjana and the 4 Jnana Sampayuta Mahakusala, will be in relation to his own Magga Chitta. And then we have the Kusala Abhinya, that would be when he is looking at somebody else's Sotapatti Magga Chitta. Now, the difference between each of these individuals is the sense object, the Arammana, the Magga Chittas that they can take as their sense object will gradually increase. So the Sakadagami individual can take both Sotapatti and Sakadagami Magga Chitta as the sense object. The Anagami individual can take Sotapatti, Sakadagami and Anagami Magga Chittas as their sense object, whereas the Arahant can take all 4. And remember, along with this consciousness arises the mental factors. So we get a total maximum number of 33 mental factors, that is excluding the two Appamanya and the 3 Virati. So from 38, when we deduct 5, we are left with 33 Cetasika. Now we are going to talk about cause and effect. Now, Lord Buddha's teachings mainly, or the basis of Lord Buddha's teachings comprise of this cause and effect. And he preached cause and effect in 3 principal ways. The simplest of the 3 are the Ariya Sacca, the 4 noble truths. Now, how can we understand this in terms of cause and effect? Now, let's look at the first Ariya Sacca, that is Dukkha Ariya Sacca. Dukkha Sacca means suffering. Suffering is the effect. Then what is the cause of suffering? Cause of suffering is Samudaya Sacca, which is Tanha, Lobha. Greed is the cause of suffering. So there we have a relationship, a cause and an effect. The cause being Tanha or greed, and the effect being suffering or Dukkha Sacca. The next 2, we get elimination of suffering, which is Nibbana. That is the effect. And how do we achieve that effect? It's by following the path, the Magga Sacca. So the 8-fold noble path is the cause, and the final effect, the manifestation of elimination of suffering, is Nibbana. So there, Lord Buddha has preached in a very simple manner, cause and effect. So that is the first way. Then a little more elaborated, he goes on to teach the paṭicchasamuppāda, the dependent origination. Now here it is a little more expanded. starting from avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, and so on. There are 12 different steps in this process. And again, it is a way of showing how one cause produces an effect. So that is a little more detailed. The third one, which is the most detailed, the most elaborate way of describing cause and effect, is given in the Patthāna Prakarana, the 7th volume of the Abhidhammatthasaṅgaha. This is the largest book ever to have been written, not only in Buddhist philosophy, but in the entirety of books. Because if you expand the content, which is written in a summarized manner, the Patthāna Prakarana becomes a humongous volume, which isn't equal to any other book on earth. So these conditional relations, this teaching of cause and effect in the Patthāna Prakarana is the most extensive teaching that Lord Buddha has taught on this topic of cause and effect. And in this Patthāna Prakarana, Lord Buddha describes 24 different paccaya or conditioning factors, 24 conditions. Now let's try to understand the essence of the relationship between conditioning states, the paccaya dhamma, and the conditionally arisen states, or the conditioned states, the paṭicchasamuppāda dhammā. Now, we said that Lord Buddha's teachings are based on cause and effect. So here the paccaya dhamma are the conditioning states. They are the cause. And the paṭiccasamuppāda dhammā are the effect. So what gives rise to the paṭiccasamuppāda dhammā are the paccaya dhamma. Now how this paccaya dhamma helps the paṭiccasamuppāda dhamma is called conditioning force, paccaya sati. Now I just want you to remember only these 3 words, and with examples we'll elaborate further so that it will make it easier for you to understand the difference between these 3 terms. Just remember that the conditioning state is called paccaya dhamma, the conditionally arisen state or the effect is called paṭiccasamuppāda dhamma, and how the paccaya dhamma helps the paṭiccasamuppāda dhamma is called paccaya sati, or the conditioning force. There are no dhamma that cannot become a paccaya dhamma. In other words, anything, chitta, cetasika, rupa, nibbana, paññāti, any of these dhammas can become a cause for another dhamma to arise. So there is no restriction. Everything on earth, everything that exists or doesn't exist, like nibbana and paññāti, does not have an arising or passing away. So anything can become a paccaya dhamma. However, only sankata dhamma can become a paccayuppāna dhamma. So those are chitta, cetasika and rupa. That means only the dhamma that have utpada titi bhanga. That is, they have an arising, they have a persistence and a passing away. Then they can be classified as atita, pachuppanna, anagata. They can be classified as past, present and future. Only those kind of dhammas can be a paccayuppāna dhamma. So, in summary, chitta, cetasika, rupa can be conditioning states, paccaya dhamma. They can also be paccayuppāna dhamma. Nibbana and paññāti can only be paccaya dhamma. They will never be paccayuppāna dhamma because they are not sankata. Dhamma. They don't have an arising or a passing away. So if it's something that doesn't arise, you can't call it a paṭiccasamuppāda Dhamma. And that is why they are classified only as paccaya Dhamma. Now let's talk further about this paccayuppāna Dhamma. Paccayuppāna Dhamma are conditionally arisen states. They can't arise on their own. So they always arise in dependence on conditioning states, the paccaya Dhamma. So in order for a paccayuppāna Dhamma to arise, there has to be paccaya Dhamma. Then again, you must remember that there is no state that arises in dependence on a single paccaya Dhamma. So if there is a paccayuppāna Dhamma, it arises with the help of multiple paccaya Dhamma, not one single paccaya Dhamma. So it's multiple paccaya Dhamma, multiple conditioning states that come together to give rise to a paccayuppāna Dhamma. In the Patthāna Prakarana, Lord Buddha describes 24 such paccaya, 24 conditions. And each condition, each paccaya Dhamma may assist or aid the paccayuppāna Dhamma in one or more than one ways. And that is called paṭicchasamuppāda or conditioning forces. So let's take a very simple example to try and understand what this paṭicchasamuppāda really means. So now we will take the example of a garment. Now I've taken a t-shirt. So if the t-shirt is the paccaya, how does the t-shirt help the body? The t-shirt covers up the body. It protects the body from insects, protects from adverse weather conditions like heat, cold. It also beautifies the body. So it's a single garment, but it helps the body in multiple ways. So this is how you need to understand the differences in the paṭicchasamuppāda, the conditioning forces. Even though there is only one condition here, only one paccaya here, the different ways that it helps the body can be categorized as the multiple paṭicchasamuppāda. Similarly, when it comes to the dhammas, a single paccaya Dhamma can help the paccayuppāna Dhamma in more than one way. And this is what we call paṭicchasamuppāda. Sometimes the paccaya Dhamma will aid a particular conditionally arisen state, a paccayuppāna Dhamma, in one way. But it aids another conditionally arisen state, another paccayuppāna Dhamma, in a completely different way. So how the same paccaya Dhamma acts or supports one paccayuppāna Dhamma may be completely different to how it would act on another paccayuppāna Dhamma. So a very simple example again, if you take this example of the t-shirt. The t-shirt helps the wearer by covering the body, protecting from insects, protecting from adverse weather conditions, beautifying the body. But how does this shirt or how does this t-shirt act on another person's mind? While beautifying the wearer's body, the person who's looking at it, the person who is observing it, may generate lobha, chitta. So then the paccaya Dhamma, which is the shirt, has acted in a completely different way on the observer's mind. So this is why paccaya Dhamma may be a single isolated Dhamma, but the way it can act on different paṭiccasamuppāda Dhamma are multiple. And it may not be in the same way. It may be in entirely different ways that they act. Now look at this diagram that we have given. First, we have a seed, which is the paccaya Dhamma, the conditioning state. And once the seed grows and becomes a tree, the tree becomes the conditionally arisen state, or the paccayuppāna Dhamma. However, when this tree starts flowering, produces fruits, and produces seeds, then the paccaya Dhamma is the tree, and the paccayuppāna Dhamma is the seed. Now you can see at certain times, what was once the paccaya Dhamma has become the paccayuppāna Dhamma. And what was once the paccayuppāna Dhamma has become the paccaya Dhamma. So it can change from time to time. So this is another nature of the paccaya Dhamma. Sometimes the paccaya Dhamma can become paccayuppāna Dhamma and vice versa. Now we mentioned that there isn't any state that arises in dependence on a single condition, but rather multiple paccaya Dhamma come into play in order to produce a paccayuppāna Dhamma. So here we have a seed. Now a seed can't become a tree on its own. It requires soil, it requires nutrients, water, sunlight. So many conditions need to come together in order to give rise to the seedling or later on the tree. So multiple paccaya Dhamma are required to produce a paccayuppāna Dhamma.
我们再看这个图表呢，之前呢，老师有讲过，没有任何一法呢是仅仅于一种缘法而生起，就是不可能只有一种缘法呢就能够呢让缘生法的升起。那这边看到，比如说我们看到有这个种子，它是缘法之一，但是只有种子呢就不能够长成一棵树，那必须呢还要有泥土，要有呢养分，要有这个水的灌溉，要有阳光的这个照耀，所以呢需要有种种不同的这些因缘的资助之下呢，种子呢才能够长成一棵树。所以呢我们可以看到呢，所以要有许许多多的缘法才能够呢让一个缘生法升起。
Now these are the 24 paccaya. I'm not going to elaborate on all 24. We'll be talking about Hetupaccaya, Ārambhanapaccaya, and Adhipatipaccaya only, because they are the ones that we need to know when it comes to the Maggārammaṇa Tika. Now we mentioned earlier that a single conditioning state, a paccaya Dhamma, can have multiple paccaya sati, multiple conditioning forces. It's like that example of the shirt, how it helps the body in multiple ways. So likewise, we have given an example. If you take the lobha cetasika, the lobha cetasika can act as a paccaya Dhamma in multiple paccaya sati, multiple conditioning forces. And here we have listed 16 different forces. I'm 16 because under number 13 and number 14, there are 2 conditions each. So altogether, lobha cetasika can support the paccayuppāna Dhamma in 16 different ways. Now, I would like to give you a small exercise. Now, I want you to take the first somanasa, the first lobha citta, which is the somanasa sahagata, ditthigata sampayutta, asankarika citta, and list out the mental factors that are associated with that consciousness. Right. Were you able to list the mental factors, the cetasika? So this is a somanassa sahagata ditthigata sampayutta asaṅkārika citta. So it's a akusala citta. So we have four different, we have four broad groups of mental factors. So the 7 sabba citta sadharana are there. So we have 7 universal mental factors. Then we have 6 pakirnaka. So from the anya samana chetasika, we can take 13. Next, we take the akusala rāshiya. From the akusala rāsi, we get the 4 universal akusala chetasika, the sabba akusala sadharana chetasika, the 4 moha chetasika, right? So we get 4 there. What else? So then this is a lobha chitta. It is a ditthigata sampayutta. So we get lobha chetasika and we get ditti chetasika. Do we get mana? No, we don't get mana because mana and ditti are mutually exclusive. They don't occur together in the same consciousness. So we get only lobha and ditti among those 3 lobha chetasika. Do we get the dosa chetasika? No, this is a lobha mula chitta. So we don't get dosa chetasika. Then hina and midda. Again, those 2 we don't get because this is a asaṅkārika chitta. And finally, vicikicca, we don't get it. Vicikicca occurs exclusively only together with the vicikicca sahagata moha mula chitta. So now we have a total of 19 chetasika, right? Okay. Now we will try to look at the first condition. Now we have the first lobha mula chitta and we have 19 chetasika. Now I want you to see what are the roots that are found within these 19 chetasika. What are the hetu? Yes, so we have the answers in the chat. The hetu are moha and lobha, correct. So this first somanassa sagata ditthigata sampayutta asaṅkārika citta has 19 chetasika that it is associated with. And among these 19, it has 2 roots, moha and lobha. So these 2 roots act as hetu-paccaya or root condition. It supports the other chitta chetasika dhamma through this hetu-paccaya, this root condition. So what is root condition? Root condition is like the roots of a tree. How does the roots help the tree? It supports, it provides the support so that the tree will not fall down. The roots provides that stability. In the same way, the mula, the hetu. Now there are 6 hetu altogether. Lobha, dosa, moha, alobha, adosa, amoha. These hetu act as roots to provide support to the remaining chitta chetasika dhamma. So in that manner, if we come back to our example, the moha chetasika and the lobha chetasika assists the consciousness and the other mental factors through the root condition, through the hetu-paccaya. So if I ask, what are the paccaya dhamma here? Under the hetu-paccaya, moha chetasika and lobha chetasika are the paccaya dhamma. Then what are the paccayuppanna dhamma? They are the remaining states that arise together with this moha and lobha, which are the consciousness, the chitta. And now we have a question. How many chetasika? Will it be 19 Will it be 18 or will it be 17? Yes, so it's a very tricky question, isn't it? Do we take 19, do we take 18 or 17? Right, so let's look at it this way. First, we will take the Moha Chetasika alone. So if Moha Chetasika is the Pachaya, it's the Hetu Pachaya, then the remaining Chitta and 18 Chetasika will become the Paccayuppanna. We can't take 19 because Moha cannot be, cannot help itself by the root condition. It can't be a root to its own self, right? So Moha is the root, is the Hetu, and the remaining Dhammas will become the Paccayuppanna. So we have the Lobha Chitta and the 18 Chetasika. Then we will take the Lobha Chetasika. We will isolate the Lobha Chetasika. Now we have Lobha Chetasika as the Hetu, and the Paccayuppanna Dhamma will be the remaining 18 Chetasika minus the Lobha Chetasika and the Lobha Chitta. So if you take Moha Chetasika alone, we will get the remaining Lobha Chitta and 18 Chetasika. That is without the Moha Chetasika. If you take Lobha Chetasika alone, then what you get as the Paccayuppanna Dhamma are the Lobha Chitta and the 18 Chetasika without or excluding the Lobha Chetasika. But now the question that I asked was, we will take both Moha Chetasika and the Lobha Chetasika as the Paccaya Dhamma, as the Hetu. And then we will look at the Paccayuppanna Dhamma. So now what we have to do is combine the two answers, combine the two Paccayuppanna Dhamma. And then what happens? The Moha Chetasika acts as a Hetu to the Lobha Chetasika. Then, and the Lobha Chetasika acts as a Hetu to the Moha Chetasika. So they help each other by the root condition. So if you are taking both of these as the Hetu, as the Paccaya Dhamma, then we do not need to deduct them from the total because they help each other. It's only when you are taking individual hetus that you will have to deduct. But when you are taking both of them together, you will get a total of 19 Chetasika. So I hope that is clear. So write them down separately. The Moha Chetasika, when isolated, you will get as Paccayuppanna Dhamma, the Lobha Chitta and 18 Chetasika, excluding Moha Chetasika. When you take Lobha Chetasika alone as the Paccaya Dhamma, you get as Paccayuppanna Dhamma, the Lobha Chitta and 18 Chetasika, excluding Lobha Chetasika. But if you are taking both of these together, then what happens is you are combining the two Paccayuppanna Dhamma because Moha acts as a root to Lobha and Lobha acts as a root to Moha. So it is very tricky. So I want you to think about this further at home, and then it will be easier for you to understand. So when you first hear it, it might sound a bit tricky, but you can listen to the recording, you can go home and think about it further, and it will become clearer to you. So the Hetu Paccaya, root condition, the Paccaya Dhamma or the conditioning states are the 6 roots. We have 3 akusala roots, Lobha, Dosa, Moha, greed, hatred and delusion, and 3 beautiful roots, alobha, adosa, amoha, non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. Why do we call them beautiful rather than kusala? Because they are not only kusala, they can be kusala, they can be vipaka or kriya. And they form the beautiful category of roots. So when they become the paccaya dhamma, what becomes the paccayuppanna dhamma? So here we take 71 consciousness. Why do we take 71? So if you remember, out of the 89 chitta, 18 of them are ahetuka chitta. Ahetuka chitta are rootless consciousness. They are not associated with any roots. So therefore, we have to deduct 18 from 89, and that will give us 71 chitta, which are called sahetuka chitta. They are rooted consciousness. And together with them, we get 52 chetasika, but excluding moha chetasika of the two moha chitta. Now, why do we exclude the two moha chetasika of the moha chitta? Now, we will think about the moha chitta. Moha chitta have only one root associated with them. It is only moha chetasika. So if there is only one root, when you take the paccaya and paccayuppanna dhamma, on the paccaya dhamma side, we will be having moha chetasika. On the paccayuppanna side, we will get the remaining dhammas. But the moha chetasika doesn't have another root for it to be associated with. So we can't call the moha chetasika that belongs to the moha chitta as a paccayuppanna dhamma of this root condition, because it's alone. If it doesn't have another root to associate with, then you can't say that it is a paccayuppanna dhamma of the root condition, because it doesn't have a root to be associated with. So that is why we exclude the two moha chetasika of the moha chitta only, right? Remember, it's only of the moha chitta. That is why we are not saying 50 chetasika instead of 52. If you say 50 chetasika, that means we have completely removed, sorry, not 50, 51. If you completely remove the moha chetasika from the 52 chetasika, then it will be 51. But that's not the case. Why? Where else do you find the moha chetasika? Moha chetasika is found together with lobha chitta. Lobha chitta has moha and lobha as their roots. Then in the dosa chitta, we have moha and dosa. But there they have a friend. The moha chetasika has lobha. And then when it comes to dosa chitta, the moha chetasika has a dosa chetasika to combine with. So they help each other through this hetu paccaya. But unfortunately, the moha chetasika of the moha mula chitta is all alone. That is why we deduct those chetasika from the 52. But the number will not change. The total number will not change. Next, we have sahetuka chittaja rupa, matter born of rooted chitta. So with certain consciousness, matter is produced, and these are called chittaja rupa. They also we have to classify as sahetuka, because we are not talking about the ahetuka ones, only the sahetuka chittaja rupa. And similarly, at the moment of conception, at the moment of patisandhi, the sahetuka patisandhi kammaja rupa are also associated with the roots. So these are the paccayuppanna dhamma of the hetu paccaya, of the root condition. Now we will try to link what we learned from the hetu Pacchaya to the Maggahetukā Dhamma, states having the path as their root cause. So last week we went through this and we said that there are three definitions given for Maggahetukā Dhamma. And because there are three definitions, the analytical states also differ depending on each of these definitions. So the first definition we said, we took the eightfold path as the condition, and then we looked at the states that were associated with this eightfold path. Now, when do we get the eightfold path? All eight path factors occur together only in two types of chittas. The Magga chitta, path consciousness, and the Phala chitta, the fruition consciousness. But if we call these eight factors path factors, then it will be exclusively the Magga chitta that we are talking about. So the Magga chitta is associated with a total number of 36 Cetasika. Why 36 and not 38? Because the Magga chitta always takes Nibbana as its object. So when it takes Nibbana as its object, there is no reason for Appamanya to arise. Appamanya arises when the mind is focused, or when the mind takes as its object or Arammana a panyati, a concept. For example, you take the entire population of humans and you spread metta towards them. So that is a concept, that is a panyati. But the Magga chitta takes Nibbana as its object. So it will not have Appamanya arising with it. So we have the Magga chitta and we have 36 Cetasika. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to remove the 8 path factors and put it on one side. And we are going to ask the question, what are the states that have the eightfold path as their condition? In other words, what are the states that are associated with this eightfold path? Then the answer is the 4 Magga chitta and the remaining Cetasika. So how do we get the number? 36 minus 8, and that will give you 28 Cetasika. So this is our first definition. And we'll look at the next two definitions next. So here we have the first definition, what we described. We take the 8 path factors, leave it aside, and then we see what is associated with them. So we get the 4 Magga chitta and the remaining 28 Cetasika. Now we will look at the 8 path factors, the Maggārammaṇā. In red we have Samma Ditti. Why have we written it in a different color? It's because Samma Ditti, right view, is not only a path factor. It is also a root. It is Amoha Cetasika, non-delusion. But if you look at the other path factors, they are not roots. So they are only path factors. But Samma Ditti is special. It is not only a path factor, it is also a root, a mula or a hetu. Now, why did we talk about the 8 path factors? It is because we are coming to this question. Which state is both a root, a hetu, and a path factor? So we know that there are 6 roots, lobha, dosa, moha, alobha, dosa, amoha. And among these, if you look at the path factors, Samma Ditti, right view, is not only a path factor, it is also the Amoha Cetasika, non-delusion. So if you are asked the question, which state is both a hetu, root, and a path factor, a Maggārammaṇā, then the answer is Samma Ditti, right view. So the reason why we spoke about all of those is because we are now coming to the second definition. The second definition is where the question is asked, what are the states that have a certain condition or a certain state which is both a path factor as well as a root as their condition. So, in other words, the states that have right view, which is both a path factor and a root as their condition. So now what do we get? We take right view as the condition, and then we try to find out what are associated with sammaditthi. So we get 4 magga chitta and 35 cetasika. So we need to deduct sammaditthi from 36. So then we are left with 35 cetasika. And this is the second definition. Now we come to the third definition. Now the third definition has 2 parts. First, we have to identify which are the roots associated with the path. So now how do we find them? We take the path and we leave it on one side. Then we look at the roots that are associated with the path. Now what are associated with the path? We know that the 4 magga chitta are called tihetuka chitta because they are associated with 3 roots. What are they? Alobha, adosa and amoha. Then we said that amoha is sammaditthi. It's within the path, right? So now we have the 8 path factors separated, and now we are looking at the remaining roots. So what is remaining? Amoha is already inside the path, so we can't take that. The remaining roots are alobha and adosa. So if the question is asked, which are the roots associated with the path, then we can't take amoha because it's already inside the path. So we have separated the path. So we are left with only alobha and adosa. Then there is another question. Which are the roots arising in the path? Now it's a completely different question. Now they are asking what roots are arising within the path. Then we have to say sammaditthi. Only amoha cetasika is part of the 8-fold noble path. So now we have got 2 answers. For the first question, we got alobha and adosa. For the second question, we got amoha. So now we come back to the slide that we discussed last week. The states that have roots associated with the path or the states that have roots arising in the path. Now, this is the second formula. This is the this is actually the third formula. The third formula. So, first we said that alobha and adosa are the roots associated with the path. And amoha is a component of the path. So we can't take it as being associated with the path. So from the first definition, that is the states that have roots associated with the path, we got alobha and adosa. Then the second one, having roots arising in the path. We said that amoha or sammaditthi is the state or the root that arises in the path. So now we have from our first definition, the Maggahetukā, alobha and adosa. From the second definition, the Maggahetukā, amoha. And we need to combine this to get the Maggahetukā Dhamma for our third formula. Let's keep that slide. Right. So now we know that the roots associated with the path are alobha and adosa. Then, which are the states that have roots associated with the path? The answer is the 4 magga chitta and 36 cetasika. Why 36? Now there are 2 hetu. alobha and adosa. Alobha acts as a hetu to adosa, and adosa acts as a hetu to alobha. So they help each other. So for that reason, we don't need to deduct any chetasika from the 36. But look at the next one. Which are the states that have roots arising in the path? What is the root that arises in the path? It is sammaditthi. So what are the states that have roots arising in the path? In other words, what are the states that have got sammaditthi? Then we have to say 4 magga chitta and 35 chetasika. So here we have to deduct sammaditthi or amoha chetasika, because amoha can't be associated with its own self. You can't say that sammaditthi is a state that has a state arising in the path. It can't be a condition for its own self. So for that reason, we will have to deduct sammaditthi. But the final answer for this definition is, the question is, the states that have roots associated with the path or the states that have roots arising in the path. So we have to combine these two answers. So when you combine the two answers, what you get are the 4 magga chitta and the maximum chetasika, which are 36 chetasika. Yes. So in a nutshell, the third definition, we get the states that have roots associated with the path or the states that have roots arising in the path. So here we take both of these definitions together and we get alobha, adosa and amoha as the condition, and associated with them we get the 4 magga chitta and 36 chetasika. So that's how we get the 3 different definitions, and that's how we find what analytical states that are classified under the 3 definitions of Maggahetukā Dhamma.
我们来总结一下呢，就是呢，这个道因法的第3个定义呢，就是说与道相应的因，或者是呢在道中之因，具有这两种情况的这个法呢是什么？就是呢，我们可以得到就是指代的，因为这2种结合在一起呢，就是无贪、无嗔、无痴这3种呢，都是属于这边的这个因。然后与这个因相应的呢，我们可以得到的就是4种道性以及所有36种性所。那这个呢，就是道因法的第3种定义所得到的这个究竟法的内容。
In our next lesson, we will talk about the Ārammana Paccaya, the object condition, as well as the Adhipati Paccaya. But for now, we will stop the lesson because there isn't time. And I would like you to email any questions that you have on this topic or any other topic. And then what I could do is, if it's related to the Maggārammaṇa Tika, I could include the questions, I could include the answers in the next talk. So the next lesson will be next week on the 18th of May.
那下一堂课呢，就会下个星期天5月18号。
It's now time to share merits.
现在呢，我们来一起将所累积的功德呢做分享。
Brother JJ, would you be able to share merits today?
OK, Doctor. 所以也请大家呢一起我们一起大家来分享功德。Akasata ca bummata dewa naga mahidika punyang thang anumoditwa chirang rakkantu sasanang chirang rakkantu desanang chirang rakkantu mang parang idame nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo idame nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo idame nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo Satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya. Idame punyang aswakaya wahang hotu. Idame punyang nibbana sa pachayo hotu. Mama punya bagang sabba satanang bhajemi. Te sabe me samang punya bagang labantu. Buddha sasanang chirang titatu. Buddha sasanang chirang titatu. Buddha sasanang chirang titatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Doctor. Take care. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Brother JJ.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Laos,
Thank
satu
you.
satu.